first, live, local. This is Fox 12 Now.
Hello everyone, this is Fox 12 Now. I'm Greg Nibbler. Thank you for joining us. Wherever you found us, we do appreciate it. We are live streaming here out of the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom every weekday starting around 1 p.m. We're on our YouTube channel. We're at KPTV.com. We're on the Fox 12 Oregon apps, so lots of places to find us. And of course, watch these segments afterward and share them as well. This next one is something that should be of interest to everyone, though. It's a new study that came out and was led by OHSU scientists that has to do with the value of sleep and how it could prevent cognitive decline later on in life. Pretty big deal. We all know sleep is important, but this is an extra big one, and it's because of a discovery they made. And to go through it, you don't want to hear from me because I am obviously not the doctor behind this. We have the doctor, and that is Dr. Juan Piatino. He joined me for a conversation to talk about it, so let's go ahead and go to this now and learn a little bit more about why this study is so important. Doctor, thank you very much for joining us here. Really appreciate it. And obviously this study seems like it can have a lot of ramifications for a lot of people. And I think, though, to give us all a basic understanding of what it is, can you tell us about this study and maybe how it got started and what your goals were there at the very beginning?
Yeah, our goals were to understand how diseases like dementia, Alzheimer's, and Parkinson's develop in humans. And to study that, we used neuroimaging in individuals to try to understand how the brain starts undergoing changes early in life that may lead to dementia and Parkinson's, basically.
And for a study like that, I mean, how long does a study like this take? If you're studying people maybe younger in their life before some of these things change and happen, like how does that actually go about? How do you go about that part?
That's a great question. It's known that the changes that lead to dementia happen many, many years, even decades before one starts deteriorating cognitively. And so even in subjects in their 40s or 50s, there might be changes that are subtle that are indicative of evolving processes. And that's what we wanted to study and characterize.
In determining, when that's happening and how those changes occur. And so I guess to that extent, what was it that you discovered with this study?
So in the early 2010, there was a discovery in mice where investigators found a way that the brain has to remove certain products that, if accumulated, lead to Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, etc. That process is called the glymphatic pathway. And it is, as you can imagine, almost like the sink of the brain. It is a method that the brain has to remove its own waste, including proteins, etc. That pathway was developed and discovered in mice, but never been shown to be present in humans. What this study does is, for the first time, it shows that indeed we, as humans, we have the same mechanism of removing toxins and waste from the brain.
And when you talk about those toxins and waste, just to really grab a concept of that, how is it that forms in the brain? Where does that come from?
The brain is like a power plant that consumes a lot of energy and generates a lot of waste. It's constantly generating waste, just like a power plant or a house or anything. And that has to be removed somehow. If it doesn't get removed, it starts accumulating, and then, like, garbage in a house or a city, it starts creating problems. But we are constantly, you and me, as we're talking, we're generating all this waste that eventually needs to be removed.
And previous to this study, how was it that we thought the brain would remove some of that waste?
It wasn't well understood. We thought that these products just exited in the brain into the blood flow somehow, but it wasn't quite understood.
So this is a huge study. This is a huge breakthrough to understand how that is happening. So, I guess to that extent, now that you understand that the brain is doing this, the human brain's doing the same thing that you found in mice, and is getting rid of this waste in this manner, What are the ramifications of that? What are the
Yeah.
ramifications of this study for people now that you do understand how the brain's getting rid of this waste?
So I think that one of the important aspects of this sync mechanism is that it gets turned on during sleep. And yeah, people,
Yeah.
people go because now I know what you're gonna say. Oh my gosh, I don't sleep at all. So
Yep.
and nobody does. And so we are starting to understand the link between a good night's sleep and the risk for developing things like neurodegeneration, Alzheimer's, etc. So one of the things that all of us could do better to help our brain remove this waste is to sleep a little bit better. And that is something that my lab and many others in Oregon and Washington also are starting to study.
So pretty much every doctor that I've ever had, no matter what the field, is always like, sleep is good. So this is just further adding to that sleep has a lot of benefits.
Absolutely. We know sleep is good. We know sleep is great. Now we have the biological basis to say, hey, really, sleep is really, really good for you. You really don't want to compromise that. And it's interesting because in society, sleep is kind of like, well, I'll sleep when later, or I sleep on the weekends and whatnot. And so, if anybody could remember anything about this interview, it would be that hopefully that sleep is very important and we need to sleep better.
And so this really does have kind of the implication that, getting better sleep could potentially prevent some of these cognitive diseases and lack of functions, whatever you want to call it, dysfunctions that happen later on in life.
Yes, indeed.
Wow.
And we found that in another study from our group and our collaborators in Washington, we found that those whose sleep is actually all over the place, up and down, those have a higher risk of developing dementia and Alzheimer's. So now we have the biological basis for that, and I think that it makes a case much stronger for advocacy.
Wow. I mean, that's a tremendous find and tremendous study. I mean, what do you think is obviously all that's very important things that you just mentioned right there. But what do you think is something else that people at home should really be paying attention to, should really be following along with, other than getting maybe some better sleep, but I guess what this study could lead to for them?
Yeah, so there are several ways to increase your ability to get rid of waste. One is the easiest one is good sleep, but there are certain medicines that are being studied that could potentially improve this removal of protein. So this has implications for future research looking at medications that could be used in people who are already developing signs of dementia that could improve their removal of these proteins. So that's something that we're also actively investigating.
Wow, well that's incredible. I mean, that's so much right there that could have so many benefits for so many people, of just understanding this and this study and this work that you did. So as you mentioned, I think that kind of answered the questions. I suppose that's where the next steps are looking for medications that could also help with that.
Yes. We're looking at two ways, right? Prevention, and then if things develop in such a way, how can we revert that process through either medications or even other interventions? Yes.
And what's the feedback been like so far since this study was published?
I think that there's a lot of excitement. There is a lot of intrigue, and there is, of course, every time you open one box, the answer one question, there is 10 more others, right? How does this work? When does it turn on? How long do I have to sleep to turn it on? What age does this process start deteriorating? So all these are active research lines that us in the Northwest are investigating.
Well, Doctor, thank you very much for joining us here just to explain this. And we really, really appreciate it, your time in walking through this. And it's a pretty tremendous study. So thanks for explaining it to us in terms that I think everybody can understand. And I will always think of the brain as a power plant now. That does make a lot of sense when you say it that way. So, Doctor, thanks for having some time to talk to us here on Fox 12 Now.
Absolutely. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, there we go. So explaining that study a little bit more in terms that I think everybody can understand. So pretty phenomenal stuff there. So hopefully that's going to lead to some real benefits for a lot of people as they increase the studies now that they've found this part out. Again, this is Fox 12 Now. We are live streaming here from the Fox 12 Oregon newsroom. Thanks for being a part of this. If this is your first time watching, we have a lot of segments for you to check out. Just go to our YouTube channel or head to kptv.com or to the Fox 12 Now tab or the app. So you can find all of our segments there and go through those. There's a wide range of topics that we cover on this show. If you have an idea for a segment or a topic or maybe a story you saw on our other news shows and you're like, I would like to find out more about that, we can get the reporter in and we can do that. We can do a deeper dive. So send me an email, fox12now@kptv.com. That's fox12now at kptv.com, and we can see if we can arrange something to get that information out there for you. But for now, I am signing off. I will talk to you soon. I'm Greg Nibbler. This is Fox 12 Now.